Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I appreciate you joining me today. Today's show is going to be focused on all about leadership. Whether you are a leader or you're looking to become one, this is for you, modernly updated for 2025. Over the last few months, I have been analyzing lots and lots of leadership reports, economic indicators, behavioral shifts, and I've really been focused on the individual contributor from my content perspective. But in this video, I want to break down my top 5 trends that I think are the most important thing for 2025. Not going to be any corporate fluff, nonsense, BS. We are just going to cut through all of the noise on AI, talent, digital transformation, automation, etc. And by the end of this video, hopefully we can prevent you from still leading like it is 2019 or 2020 and put yourself ahead instead of behind and not have your career at risk and your position at risk and your company and your people that report to you. So with that, let's just go ahead and dive into it. So the big thing that I see, we'll just jump into trend number 1, is that leaders must return back to first principles. We need to ditch the fluff, ditch the nonsense, the corporate buzzwords, the long meetings, the top-down control, everything that's been those traditional leadership mindsets or tactics. They need to just be tossed out. And there's definitely a misunderstanding of what first principles are. A lot of people think they know what that term means, and then they end up using it atrociously. And really what first principles are is they are the root of truths, the truths behind the truths. So if you deem that a long meeting is successful, well, the question is why? And then you keep going down until there is no other principle that you can derive a why behind. And so what this means to me from a leadership perspective is we need to go back to the basics from a questioning and curiosity point of view. So let's just start with the most basic question of them all. What's the real goal of leadership? It is to move people in a shared direction with clarity and trust. That's it. That is what our job is as leaders. It is to be the guardrails and the guiding truth of how to get people from point A to point B, with point B being the mission, and then C and D and E and so on and so forth. And then when we reach Z, we start back over again. And we are just continually moving forward. And when you then go, well, how do you do that? How do you get a high-performing team? What does a high-performing team actually need? They need direction, they need ownership, they need autonomy, and feedback. That's it, right? If you think about you being successful in your life in anything, let's ignore leadership for a second. Any time in your life where you have ever achieved anything or you've been successful, you had a direction to go, you had ownership of your success and failure, you had the ability to do that success and failure on your own, and you received feedback in order to go, oh, well, hey, you could have done that better, or, oh, that was brilliant, right? Either direction. That is how you succeed. So there's your recipe for success as a leader. This is what we need to get back to asking ourselves the question of. And I want to back this up with a bunch of different data. So Gallup did a huge poll. This is over a year ago at this point. So this was in early 2024. And they found that engaged teams had 23% higher profitability and an 18% greater productivity, and overall outperformed their competition by 33%. A DDI report found that companies that have a strong coaching culture or a bottom-up growth culture had 13% higher engagement and 33% higher business performance. Okay, so these two go hand in hand. Those first two, having that bottom-up coaching culture gives you 13% more engagement, 33% better performance. Engaged teams, what we just increased, have 23% higher profitability and 18% greater productivity. Again, get your teams engaged, get them coached, get them learning. A Wiley Workplace intelligence study did a top 3 leadership skills for 2025 assessment. What did they come down to? Strategic vision, effective communication, and change management. One of the interesting things about change management is Accenture released, they're one of the largest tech consulting firms, that the rate of change in the last 5 years has increased by over 180%, almost triple what it was 5 years ago. But think back to our first principles. What was our goal as leaders? Strategic vision, communicate, guide, feedback, effective communication, and change management. That's it, because change management is ultimately moving towards something. If you're not moving towards something, you're not changing. We're sticking to first principles here. We also have 15% of leaders who are the ones that feel prepared to address employee burnout. So again, engagement or disengagement is actually at an all-time high. 72% of leaders themselves feel used up at the end of the day, which is a 12% increase from 5 years ago in 2020. Productivity is a top 5 strategic business priority, according to Gartner CEO survey. The World Health Organization released that poor mental health in global economy caused a $1 trillion per year loss in productivity. Think back to our first principles and how all these things correlate. We need to have people, give people direction, give them ownership, give them autonomy, give them feedback, and give them a vision. That is what every single stat there is about: engagement, productivity, profitability, moving in a direction, burnout, and mental health. Because if people don't feel fulfilled, they don't know what they're fighting for, they don't know why they're getting up every day, that's what causes your burnout. This is the state of the union that we are in. And so employees are becoming overwhelmed. The rate of change is insane. And so our job as leaders is to bring the temperature down, get people back to basics. Even ourselves, 72% of leaders feeling on the verge of burnout, if not burnout, right? We need to get ourselves back to basics. And we need to be looking to our leaders to go, what is the vision? Where am I going? Where do I need to take my team to be? And if you're the one that's at the top of the executive, so where you necessarily don't have anything above, then you need to be the vision creator, right? So you might not be able to ask these questions up. But the key actions that I'm going to boil this down to are 3 simple things. Lead with clarity, which comes through simply over communicating. Communicate so much to your team, your people, your peers, your adjacent level managers and leaders, to the point to where they're like, all right, guy, I got it. Or gal, we're good. I understand what you're saying. Over communicate. Okay. Own the outcomes. A lot of leaders out there, just whether it's second nature, reflex, or whatever, they are the first to own the positives, but they will absolutely give a scapegoat for the negatives. Oh, it was Sally, or oh, this team prevented us from doing it. Okay, well, what could you have done? Right? Or even worse, they will outsource accountability on an individual level to HR or other departments, which is asinine, because that is part of your job as the leader. You are the one that should be doing their reviews. You are the one that should be doing their one-on-ones. You are the one that should be having the real-time feedback call, Teams message, Slack message, whatever, having that accountability. So own the outcomes, positive and negative. It's all your fault. If you want a great resource on this, Jocko Willink, Extreme Ownership, the sequel, Dichotomy of Leadership as well. That 1-2 punch, I promise you, will get you to understand how to own outcomes and put it in plain, simple English. And so I mentioned leading with clarity by over communicating, owning the outcomes. And the last one is going to relate back to the first one, which is just communicate frequently. So again, this over communication, especially if you are in an environment that is hybrid or remote, to where it's very easy for people to just naturally feel distant and disconnected and not a part of a movement, right? Having those constant touch points of communication, and don't always make it about work. Just be like, hey, how's your Tuesday going? You doing all right? Things going well? How was your weekend? Right? You have any plans for the upcoming weekend? Right? Like just simple, basic questions, and just staying on these touch points and making sure people feel like they're a part of something. Something that I actually did for my last company that our department loved was so we were all remote, geographically dispersed. So we actually just had a 24/7 running Teams call that we could join and leave as needed. So like if you had meetings or need to go do head down work or whatever it might be, you could jet. Like there was no problem, no harm, no foul. But like if you were just kind of idly working or doing your thing, then hop in. What's the worst case, right? You sit in silence and you at least have some other people on the screen and it feels like you're kind of in an office. But this actually became such a good culture builder. And so just having the frequent communications, again, leading with clarity and owning the outcomes. Get yourself back to first principles. Ask yourself, what is the goal of leadership and what does a high performing team need? Answer those 2 questions, take action on the answers to those 2 things. And that's it. You will be shocked at how effective you're going to be here in 2025. Get back to basics. Now, the main driver of this is going to be the second trend that I'm identifying, which is AI first leadership. AI is not just for your individual contributors. It's not just to make software developers be more efficient. It's not just for finance people to do data analytics better or to run reports more efficiently. It is quintessential for every level of an organization, and especially the executives and leadership team, because it can be so useful. Let's say you're at the top and you're the vision creator. You can be having AI do market analysis, do trending, look at everything you're doing, and then you can sit there and have a voice conversation with it about everything you know in your brain and what your grandiose and terrible and in between ideas are, and have it tell you what's great, what's not about it. At the same time, let's say you're more of like a middle management. You're someone like myself who's at that kind of senior manager director level. You haven't had every difficult conversation in the book. You haven't had every managing up conversation in the book. Boom, AI voice conversation to mock up the type of conversation you want to have and the personality type that you're going to have it with. So whether it's brainstorming ideas, whether it's actually doing tactical things, whether it's analyzing data, whether it's mocking up conversations, AI and your leadership needs to be there. It is not just for the contributors. So for those of you leaders that think you can idly sit by, no, 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 no. That's just not going to work. Right. And so AI is at this point, it is built into company function. If your company is not leveraging AI in some capacity, unless you're on the blue collar side of the equation, and even then, your back office should probably be using it. But put that aside for a second. If you're not using it, you are behind. And just like I did before with the first trend, here's some data that I found super, super, super interesting here. Okay. So Wiley and the University of Melbourne in Australia. So only 15% of employees understand their company's AI strategy. 15%. That's insanity, right? So again, what was the first trend? You need to communicate clearly and provide that vision. So it's the same thing with AI. How does your company plan on using it? What are the guidelines? Is there experimentation and R&D type of AI usage, or is it meant to just be for certain functions throughout your organization? Come up with an AI strategy, even if it's just, hey, you know what? We're going to go spend $5,000 on some AI tools over the next year. Have fun, deal with it, and let us know what you come back with. I don't know if anybody saw this, but Shopify came out last week and said AI first is a must for our organization. AI competency will now be built into every single review for every single employee at every single level. The company is at a hiring freeze until there is justification that AI cannot solve the hiring problem. And solutions to a project must be started by using AI, and only when AI cannot fulfill the solution of the initiative or project, then does it get have to be presented as such, and then a human can do that project. They are operating AI first. Not saying that that's the guaranteed way that you have to do it, but you need to be somewhere in the middle from not using it at all to AI is always the first solution, and only then do you back off to the human. But having 15% of employees understand a company's AI strategy, unacceptable. Gartner compared from 2021 to 2025 and said that in these 4 years, they are predicting that 70% of organizations will have some level of structured automation and AI implementation in their company. 70%. So compare that to the polar opposite of the previous stat. You have 70% of companies who are planning to adopt this and implement it, but only 15% of employees understand the strategy. Talk about a disconnect. And the crazier thing about that 70% statistic is that it's up 20% from 2021. That's what's nuts. Okay. Another one from the University of Melbourne that I thought was very, very interesting is that right now, most AI models reflect the United States centric training data. So there might be even a gap in the data into where you need to specify to it internet access to gain perspectives from other different cultures, right? So learning to use prompt engineering, back to my previous video that I did last week, 2 weeks ago, learning to interact with it, prompt with it, and tell it, hey, I need you to pull in information from these cultures, these backgrounds, or this information, right? This is what's happening with AI. Is it's being adopted by 70% of organizations predicted. You have to do this or you will get lost. Okay. So what do we need to do, right? What are the actions to take as leaders on our side? First off, I want to acknowledge, like I said in the beginning, but I'm going to stress it again. This affects every single person who is leading teams, people, building process, or making strategic decisions. So even if you are not a leader in title, but you are making processes for a company, you are making policies for a company, you are making strategic decisions in terms of personnel or in terms of hiring or money allocation, you need to leverage AI. And so use it to augment yourself, right? So, like I said, you have a conversation with it. So, let's say you are talking about saying, hey, we're going to hire 2 people in our finance department to help us make sure that we have all of our books in a row and things are going efficient. But because we're doing that, we can't put it over here. And here's the amount that we're going to spend. Here's our bottom line, right? You can feed all of this to AI and have a conversation with it. Hey, here's the risk factors in hiring these 2 finance people. The 2 finance people are going to cost our company about 140 grand in salary. Plus, when you factor in total comp, we're talking closer to 200,000. That is being taken away from potential investment into our product R&D. And because of that, here's maybe our customer success metrics and our marketing metrics. And like you can feed it all of this data and all of the different scenarios. And if the people don't work out, then here's the potential risk and the amount of time it's going to cost us. And you can say, hey, I need you to be my partner in this and helping me make the decision. Feed it all the data and have a conversation with it. You can even tell it, hey, I need you to tell me why this is the wrong decision, and I will try and convince you that I am right. And only when you are exhausted from reasons I am wrong, then, this conversation is concluded, right? Like you can really push the limits of this and create some super, super, super interesting decision-making frameworks and processes. Again, clear up the 15% of employees understanding your strategy. Okay. Roll out some literacy programs. Teach your people what prompt engineering is, what the risks are. When you look at the risk, the fact that there's legal and ethical and reputation and these sorts of different components, right? Make sure your people are educated. It's just like cybersecurity. Your company should be doing some sort of security training ongoing once a year, twice a year, something. Build AI into those same trainings. Okay. And then really create a culture of cross training between humans and AI. And so when you have a department or a person over here in your IT department say, hey, this prompt framework or this prompt engineering style or this particular task was incredible to plug into AI. On the flip side, hey, this was atrocious. I got terrible results. It caused a bunch of hallucinations, gave me a bunch of information that didn't make sense, whatever it might be. So we as leaders need to not only become competent with AI, both to make us better leaders, but also, again, to give your people clarity, autonomy, and the ability to be their best selves and achieve the best results for you. You noticing a trend here? We're just getting back to basics. AI is forcing a reinvention of the way we operate. So stop looking backwards and only look forwards. Okay? And this goes into my number 3 trend, which is adaptability is going to crush authority. Okay? The traditional leadership mindset of command and control, top down, blah, blah, blah. Kill it. It's done. End of story. Okay. The best leaders are going to be the ones who adapt, who are strategic focus, who pivot quick, fail fast, make change, build your resilient teams, and really, really, really prioritize adaptability over perfection. Again, the world is reinventing itself. Let's even take business out of it for a second. How many of you that are watching this video are using ChatGPT as a Google replacement, as a DuckDuckGo replacement? And let's ignore ChatGPT. Fine, you're using Gemini, you're using Claude, you're using Perplexity, whatever it might be. I don't care about the model, but you are using AI in place of search engine. That is how fundamental this is. Google has ruled the search engine world for over 2 decades. They're now being displaced from a search engine standpoint that people are going to. Okay. So that's just one tiny, minute, small example. Take this to the business level. Everybody is rethinking what is happening. Salesforce reduced their human touch support tickets by 87% this year already due to Salesforce Agentforce. Call centers are being displaced left and right. I myself have created software development solutions in 20 minutes that I know veteran software developers who are taking them days to create and write. That's the level of productivity change that you can have here, or application innovation or product innovation. Okay. So everybody, including yourself as the leader, needs to get in that mode of flexibility over perfection, fail fast, fail quick, pivot, make a change. Okay. So ignore the market shifts and ignore all of that. Okay. What you need to figure out is who are your adaptable players. That is now what makes an A player, who is hungry, curious, and is never going to give up. That's your recipe for A talent. Straight up. It's not about the expert that can come in and do the job day one. It's about the person who's going to come in and kill the game on day two. That's the person right now. Okay. That is one of the fundamental shifts that we need to make as leaders. And so this adaptability, in my opinion, while yes, it does affect executives to some degree, this is really mostly going to affect us mid to senior leaders. So I'm going to go anywhere from, let's go senior manager to VP. I think it's that band. So senior manager, senior director, and VP. I think that that's the band of leaders that are going to be the most caught in the crosshairs of this adaptability, because those are the people that are still really, really heavily focused on either departments or individual contributors and really driving results, where the executives are still very vision oriented. They're still very mission oriented and the more unification oriented. This is about getting your people, the culture, and the company to be adaptable. And so, again, let's look at some. I'm a big data guy. I'm a by the numbers guy. So I mentioned before that Accenture came out at the end of last year and said that the rate of pace of change has increased by over 180%. But I stand corrected. It was not over the past 5 years. It was over the past 4. Okay. So 20% less time frame, still almost triple the change. Okay. 80% of your employees feel overwhelmed or burnt out due to the rate of change, which goes back to a lack of clarity and a lack of support and a lack of building resilient, flexible teams. Okay. 1 in 6 employees straight up are experiencing burnout. End of story. No other qualifiers. 1 in 6. That's how bad it is. And this was an interesting study that I thought was done. That was, I believe it's an organization called ETS. So they came out and said that a skill that you learn today is worth half of what it was 6 years ago. Okay. So that means that you have to learn twice as many skills today to get the same skill stacking result and impact than you did 6 years ago. That's insanity. Did we all of a sudden overnight be able to learn twice as much in the same amount of time? No. But AI is your trigger point there. AI is the difference maker. It is what allows you to overnight become much better at strategic planning, become much better at clarification and communication, become much better in having difficult conversations and building resilience in your team and taking your leadership style to the next level. Okay. You need to just simply be adaptable. That is one of the keys here for 2025. Now, this is one that I'm going to take a very, very hard left turn here for a second. But my fourth trend that I want to identify is that DEI fatigue is real. And it's honestly just hurting businesses. And so I am going to get into some data and some statistics that are both contradictory and not. But let's just take a look at companies who between 2024 and 2025 have publicly said they are eliminating or significantly scaling back their DEI initiatives. Are we ready for this list? Okay. We got Walmart, Target, Pepsi, Lowe's, Tractor Supply, John Deere, Harley Davidson, McDonald's, Molson Coors, Caterpillar, Toyota, Nissan, Google, Meta, Amazon, Disney, Paramount, PBS, Goldman Sachs, Citigroup, Bank of America, Deloitte, JP Morgan, Boeing, and Ford. Those are just the ones that have publicly done it. And that's probably not even all of them, right? Those are just the ones that I could find pretty quickly off, off the back of my hand, type of thing. That's massive. a lot of the market tends to follow the big boy decisions. And big boy in this case, I'm meaning like your Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 type of companies. Usually it follows suit and slowly trickles down. Now, you have to ask yourself, why? Okay. And the interesting thing is that Walmart, I think, said it best. It did nothing but hurt their bottom line. It cost them $100 million and they had no revenue for it. End of story, right? So this is something that I mentioned early in the video, I think as my, opener, right? Like we're just going to kind of cut through some of this BS. This was a huge initiative and corporate takeover that was just deemed societally useless. Really was at the end of the day. It just did nothing but hurt the bottom line. It was for public perception, and that's it. But it didn't actually result in innovation, R&D, revenue, investments, and progress. And so if you are a leader who has made this a core aspect of what you do, here's the thing. Treat everybody the same. End of story. Period. Dot. Okay, move on. Right. But there doesn't need to be this giant movement and initiative. And so this isn't necessarily going to affect every leader, right? But it's going to affect the leaders that really, really cared about this. And again, I'm not telling anybody to discriminate because that would be nonsense, right? We equal opportunity employment just simply needs to be enforced. But with that said, right, the big boys are ditching it, smaller boys are ditching it, and it's just continuing to trickle down that chain. And so if you see your company ditching it, don't hate them for it. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It doesn't mean that your people are going to hate your company now, okay? Unless you actually see some bad, shady stuff going on. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but I just wanted to point it out that it really, really seemed to be latter part of 2024, even here into early 2025, that this is a trend that's continuing to go. And because, again, we are just in an age globally, this is not unique to the US, of having to reinvent ourselves, go back to first principles and go back to basics. This is just not a first principle. It's just not a basic. It is not required and should not be taking a bunch of attention, focus, and revenue to achieve this, because at the end of the day, it was nothing but a cost. There was no gain to it. And I think that this also improves your clarity, your coaching, and your ability to facilitate your team's performance in the grand scheme, because they will no longer have questions. Well, was I hired because of this, or were they hired because of that, or why are we looking for this position, and why did we not choose the best person? I was a part of the interviews and this was not the best candidate, whatever it might be. All of that, just distraction, gets out the window, and it allows you to focus on our basics. Okay, let's come back to my final trend here. You must become a learning beacon, a learning architect, somebody who is focused not only on learning for your team, but yourself. Lead by example. Set the tone. If you are a leader who has been pawning off AI, or is still just using it as a search engine, or sitting there putting in just like, how do you do this formula in Excel, right? And that's all you use it for. Learn prompt engineering, set the tone. And then when you learn something, teach your team, create that culture, iterate it. When you see that one of your teammates or somebody on your team did something awesome, hey, can you teach the rest of the team that? Where did you learn that? Is there maybe a subscription we could sign up for to get people continuous learning, right? This is the type of thing that we have to do. And this is not just because of performance and the AI revolution, but one of the things to keep in mind is we are still in a trend where every year we are achieving more and more people that are retiring. And there are over 4 million baby boomers expected to retire this year. Baby boomers at this stage of their career are in leadership. They're executives, they're VPs, they're directors, and not entirely. There's a lot of them that were still very happy in their life being individual contributors or even low level management. But for them to be replaced, for you to replace 40 years of experience in a professional, you're going to need to train some people. You're going to need to get them taught things. You're going to need to have them learn. You're going to need to build a Socratic culture where people are teaching themselves and feeding off each other and competing and growing and making it nonstop. That because we have 4 million people that we need to effectively replace. Okay. Going back to one of the earlier stats that I said, right? Coaching led organizations, learning led organizations outperform their competitors by 33%. That is nuts. Think about that percentage on a grand scale. You're $1 million business, that's an additional 333 grand. You're a $1 billion business, that's 333 million, right? It's insane how much that actually is. 33%. Most companies are super, super stoked if they get a 5% year over year growth. Well, guess what? You can almost 7x that super stoked by training your people, by learning, by giving them learnings and the ability to grow themselves. Okay. The other kind of flip side irony of this for us as leaders, when you get to the top, DDI did a CEO evaluation and study where 50% of CEOs cited developing the leaders themselves were a challenge. So what does this mean? Don't rely on your CEO. Don't rely on your senior leaders. Learn yourself as the middle to senior leadership in order to figure out what is next. Is a mentor awesome? Yes, it is great, and it will fast track you. So if you want a mentor outside of your company because 1 in 2 CEOs are not going to do it or don't know how to do it or are struggling to do it, go pay for one and go hire one. But also do it yourself. It's not that hard. I mean, we've all learned throughout our career. You didn't become a director or VP or whatever you are by just not learning anything. So you already have the tactics, you already have the strategies, just use it, right? We need to continue to learn, need to continue to stay adaptable. That is what we are here to do as leaders. So let's recap this and wrap this up, right? What are our 5 trends? Return to first principles. What is your job as a leader? What does a high performing team need? Answer those 2 questions. Stop there. Take action. AI first leadership is trend number 2. Adaptability over authority. Trend number 3. DEI is declining. Trend number 4. And leaders as learning beacons. Number 5. Okay. This is not the year that's going to reward the loudest leader or the traditional leader or even potentially last year's top performer from a leadership perspective, right? But for those of you that want to change your leadership and become clear and calm and effective, that's who will be rewarded. And so I'm really curious, comment below which of these trends either you are already seeing inside your organization, you are planning on adopting, or you are looking to work on yourself. If you do leave a comment, I will respond to every single one. Check the track record every single time. If you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell. And you can also check me out on LinkedIn, X, Instagram, and Facebook. Every single Friday, I also do a weekly webinar at 4 p.m. Link down below. Sign up for that. I look forward to seeing you there. Until next time, thank you.